View, Sunday morning talk focused on the political scene in Arkansas.
Welcome back to Capitol View. Gun owners in Arkansas are still not exactly sure if they can carry their guns on their hip in public or not. Meanwhile, married same-sex couples told that they have all the rights of traditionally married folks. Here to discuss the legal implications of these issues and much more, Attorney General Leslie Rutledge. Attorney General, thanks very much for spending some time with us this morning. Certainly appreciate it.
Thank you, Bob, for having me on.
It's been a very busy week for you guys in your office. A lot going on. Let's start with the issue of guns, open carry. Where does this stand? And just exactly, I mean, how is it defined?
Sure, Bob. Well, over Act 746, there has been some confusion. My office did receive an official opinion request from 3 legislators this week. And so until that official opinion comes out, then I'm going to be restricted as to what I say and what advised.
At this point, you know, folks think that if I own a gun, I can carry it. Would you advise them otherwise at this particular point?
What I would advise anyone is if they do choose to carry a firearm, whether or not they have a concealed carry license, to do so responsibly and respectfully, to respect law enforcement. Our law enforcement officers put their lives on the line every single day, and what we don't want are for citizens to taunt them or to ask them, you know, to try to put them in a situation to where they don't know. And so I just encourage people to be responsible and respectful if they're going to carry a firearm.
And this is some of the things that are being discussed too, because if you take on the responsibility of carrying a gun openly, then either you are putting yourself in a position where you are taking on the role of a first responder in a dangerous situation or a situation that might escalate, and also you could be a target, the first target. So are these some of the things that need to be clarified, some things that will be worked out? Well,
again, we always encourage people to be responsible and respectful if they carry a firearm. And certainly, every case is a case-by-case basis. And so whether or not someone is arrested, whether or not they are in a position to be a first responder, that is a simple case-by-case basis.
Okay, so at this point, your office is waiting on determination or opinion from these legislators.
Well, we've received a request for an Attorney General's advisory opinion. We will be issuing that advisory opinion in the coming days, weeks.
And so more to come on this. We're still kind of in that gray area.
That's right. It still is. And again, I encourage people to be responsible and respectful if they do choose to carry a firearm.
Okay, so much more on that to come. Also, we get a ruling on gay marriage. Judge Wendell Griffen saying that the folks who are married in the state of Arkansas, gay couples, they have the rights as traditionally married folks do. And that's where that stands. I think 500 or so folks were married when that window was opened up, then it was shut. Where does your office stand on that?
Well, we have 30 days from that decision to decide whether or not we're going to appeal. We're encouraging the state agency, Department of Finance and Administration, to, as we do all agencies with regard to any law, to follow the law, to follow the court's order.
So does that mean that at this point, then we also have, what, later on this month, the U.S. Supreme Court is going to bring forth a decision or an opinion?
The marriages at issue in Arkansas, they are not defined as marriages as the Amendment 83 defines traditional marriage as between one man and one woman. And yes, and we do expect the U.S. Supreme Court to make a decision later this month on this issue. So
we're talking about, you've had a very busy week. You've got a very busy summer ahead of you. All these things are kind of falling into place.
We do. We do a lot of great work at the Attorney General's office that include the advisory opinions, that include upholding Arkansas laws and statutes such as the marriage amendment.
This week also marking the 20th anniversary of the disappearance of Morgan Nick. I remember when this story broke. I had been working here just for a couple months, and it was a story that all the media hit extremely hard. Still very interested. We're all interested in any kind of lead that pops up. And it also brings to light, and I think this is something that Colleen Nick is also sheds light on, that there are a lot of missing people out there still in the state of Arkansas, a lot of active cases. Your office taking a stand this week saying, you know, something's going to be done about this. We either need to hit these cases hard or figure out how to respond better once a call comes in.
Absolutely. This past Tuesday, June 9th, did mark the 20th anniversary of Morgan Nick's disappearance. And on Wednesday, our office, the Attorney General's office, hosted a Never Forgotten Arkansas Takes Action conference with law enforcement officers, training with families to honor those families, but most importantly to bring families of the missing in to meet with individuals from the state crime lab, state police, FBI, to ensure that we receive the DNA necessary to hopefully to find their loved one, because in an ideal world that we can find their loved one, put those families back together. But we want the families to know that they are not forgotten, that their loved ones are not forgotten, that Arkansas law enforcement is working with them and will be with them every single step of the way.
One thing, too, Colleen, Nick mentioned, too, the technology that we have available today is so far away from what we had back then. She mentioned, you know, we had a couple cell phones, pagers, and fax machines back then. You know, now we've got everything. I mean, we can get online and we can get images out and we can get information from law enforcement as far away as, you know, coast to coast instantly. So are these some of the kind of things that initial responders want to take into consideration?
It is, and that's the Attorney General's office. We distributed $100,000 to the Criminal Justice Institute to begin training groups of law enforcement officers across the state to have child abduction response teams. So that way, in the event that this happens, we have teams in place that know how to respond immediately, that collaborate with one another to hopefully shorten that amount of time that child is missing from their parents.
Anything else going on in the Attorney General's office?
Well, we have.
We get a heads up on? We
do. We have an incredible cyber crimes unit to go after those who threaten children on. In today's world of technology, whether it's Instagram, Snapchat, apps called Secret, I encourage parents, grandparents, aunts, and uncles to familiarize themselves with how to use this technology, because the young folks know how to use it, the bad guys know how to use it. At the AG's office, we're going after the bad guys. Just in the past 10 days, we have arrested 2 individuals for child pornography. One was in Hot Springs, one was in Benton, and we're going to aggressively go after those individuals who threaten our children.
I think, too, it's what a lot of people are surprised, the fact that the predators are out there online. They seem to be surprised when they get caught in these snares that law enforcement puts out there. But there's any number of law enforcement folks online circulating in these online communities that these guys need to be aware of.
Yes.
I mean, know that they're out there. The cops are online, too.
Absolutely. The law enforcement officers are online, and if someone is looking, distributing, sharing this sort of pornography, then we will catch them and we will put them in the penitentiary. But again, I encourage parents and grandparents, aunts and uncles to learn how to use this technology. Help us protect your children. That's what I encourage parents, grandparents, aunts and uncles to do.
Sure. It's one of those things, too. When the advent of television came along, what are you watching? Is it appropriate to watch? So, I mean, they're into so much things, but yeah, get familiar with it, know what they're doing, and there are also blocks that you can put on, whether they're iPad computers,
Absolutely.
Things like that, so they don't accidentally stray into areas that they should.
At any given time, an adult should pick up that child's smartphone, see what they're looking at, see who they're talking to, ask the right questions, help us protect your children. All right.
Attorney General, thank you so much for spending time this morning. Certainly appreciate it. I know you have a very busy week ahead. Keep us informed.
We will indeed. Thank you.
Thanks very much. When we come back, the fight over common